What's the deal with product knowledge? So let's get into it. Here's my controversial take. You really don't need to know everything. And here's why. The one thing that product knowledge will help you with is it will give you confidence. I understand that if you knew, you're probably watching this because you knew, you don't feel confident, and it will help you. It will give you this feeling of confidence if you know more about the car that you're selling. But again, it's not actual product knowledge. It's not going to sell you cars. It's not as important as you might think it is, and some people might make you think it is. Not only you don't need to know everything, you cannot know everything. Even if you sell one brand, the brands these days, even like average brand like Toyota or Ford, even something like luxury brand like Mercedes, Porsche, or BMW. There's so much knowledge, that so much information about these cars, and it's so deep that it's just impossible to know everything. Plus, what's going to happen is manufacturers are just going to throw a wrench in your thing in the middle of the year. They're going to change the packages without telling you, and then just when you think you learn everything, how the car is configured and the differences, they're just going to change something on you. So it's just impossible to know everything. Also, the people that complain the most, the customers, type of customer that complains, and sometimes you see that in reviews or online. Oh, I went to the dealership, didn't know anything about the car. These people will never be satisfied, and these are customers that just realistically might not be worth your time, because they go to dealers to argue, to show off their knowledge, to feel superior. They already know everything. And the point of going to a dealership when you know everything about the car and then asking gotcha questions to the salesperson to try to catch them in lack of product knowledge, okay, I guess it works for them, but it's really not going to help you sell cars to fight these customers and get into competition of who knows more about the car. Okay, you got to prove that you know more. It's not going to sell you a car. They're not going to like you more because of it. The cost benefit, just the relationship between learning everything there is to know and the benefit of what you will get from it in terms of actual money, the commission that you will get, it's not going to be worth it. But there are certain things that I would say that are much more impactful, certain things you should learn as soon as possible when you new, even if you're not new, you should know those things, because those are the things that will help you sell cars. So, first of all, what do you need to know? You need to know concepts versus details. By that I mean all-wheel drive versus four-wheel drive. If you have cars that you have all-wheel drive cars and you might be competing against four-wheel drive cars, you need to know the difference. You need to be able to explain it in a few sentences, so that people will understand. Horsepower and torque, what's the difference? Especially right now with electric cars, it is really important to know what the difference is and explain it in the way that the customer will understand it within a few sentences. So things like that, those concepts are important, more important than knowing which package has the sunroof or which color this car comes in, or the length of the horsepower. Everything that can be Googled in one sentence on your phone, you really don't need to know that. And eventually you're going to learn, you're just going to memorize it, but it's not worth the effort of trying to memorize those things. Okay, so we need to know the concepts. Figure out how to explain what it does versus what it is. Telling a customer it has adaptive cruise control and this car doesn't, yeah, it's great, but you have to be able to explain it in the way that builds a picture in the customer's mind what actually it does. So imagine you're on the freeway. Imagine right now it's traffic flowing freely. You set the cruise control at 75. Suddenly the traffic builds up. What your car is going to do is it's going to slow down and maintain a safe distance, even if the traffic stops, so you don't have to worry about it, and you can be more relaxed and enjoy your drive more when you drive for a long distance. Something like this. Paint a picture, explain what it's going to do to the customer, rather than, well, these days, especially with economy brands, all cars have everything, right? They have Bluetooth, they have camera. What's the difference? So figure out how to explain, actually paint a picture, so you come off as a professional without actually having to know everything about these cars. Learn what your car competes with and how it compares. So again, there are a lot of different brands, but most of these brands, they're just duplicates of one of another. For example, I sold BMWs for a long time. So there's the BMW 3 Series and there's a Mercedes C-Class. You need to know that these are the cars that compare to each other, and you need to know how they compare. And you don't need to prove that your car is better than the other. That's actually might be counterproductive. What I used to say is, yeah, three class, 3 Series and C class, they're comparable cars. And Mr. Customer, whichever one you pick, you're going to be happy for the 3 years you're going to lease it, no matter what. They're both great cars. Here's how whatever the difference is between the two cars. BMW is more this way and Mercedes is more this way. Just a question which one do you prefer? So something like this. Same with SUVs. That's people compare comparable cars, right? Nobody really compares a two-seater to an SUV. You don't need to know that. Learn how to operate things. So a reasonable customer is not going to be upset at you for not knowing the exact horsepower or exact length of the whatever sedan that you sell. But you will come off as really unprofessional if you don't know how to turn on the lights, how to open the gas tank, how to lower the seats. So, what I used to do when I would start with a new brand, I would get the manual, and these days manuals already in the car, the digital or on your phone, whatever, and just go through the manual in the car. Not so I'm going to learn and memorize what it does, but so I will know how to operate it, how to go into the navigation and the menu and change the settings, how to set Bluetooth, how to turn on Apple CarPlay. Those are the things that are crucial to show off that you're a professional salesperson, much more important than knowing the numbers about the car that can be Googled. Now, with some cars, specific cars, you do need to learn and go in depth. So you don't really need to learn about, compact sedan, what the difference is, right? You really don't need to learn about a 3-row minivan or an SUV that much, other than like how to fold seats and do that stuff. But there are a few classes of cars that you do need to know a little bit more in depth technical knowledge. First one these days is the electric cars, EVs. You need to be able to explain charging, range, basic concepts about these cars, where you can charge it, what it will be like. Can I take the car home and charge it, and will I be able to get to work tomorrow if my work is 100 miles away? You need to be able to know that and to explain that. There's not a lot of technical information, but you need to have that. Trucks. Trucks are complicated, right? Especially like actual work trucks, F-150, Tundra, whatever Ram. Uh, these cars, if you want to be a pro at selling those trucks, you need to learn. You need to understand concepts such as towing, that gross weight, this all kinds of weights and classes of the car, of these trucks. So this is important to know. And performance cars. If you get into things like selling Porsches, you really need to understand performance. You don't need to be a race driver, but it's good to get some experience on it. Even like whatever Porsche driving school. I went to BMW driving school a couple of times. I have zero interest in racing cars, but this was really helpful for me to understand how these cars work and how M4 or M3 compares to 911. Because I was surprised. I thought 911 is whatever, the best thing ever. Actually, M4 compares to this car pretty well, and people cross shop these cars. So, again, cars that you should start learning before others is trucks, electric cars, and performance cars if you're selling one of those. Now, other than that, your time will be spent much better if you learn about product knowledge adjacent skills. So not to learn and memorize the length of the car and the weight of the car. Nobody cares how heavy the car is unless it's like tax bracket. But you need to know, here's what you need to know. You need to know where to look. Either familiarize yourself with the manufacturer website, with your own internal system. Most manufacturers provide you some internal system to look stuff up, where you order cars, where you locate cars. These systems, you need to know how to use them so you'll be able to look things up and find that information. If you don't have those, play with sites like Edmunds.com. It has a great comparison tool that will allow you to compare different cars, even within your own brand, and to see the differences. Learn how to clarify. Now, this is already sales skills, but it's a product knowledge adjacent. So, how to clarify is basically how to ask questions. So, if a customer says to you, well, safety is really important to me. You do whatever that first stage, you find out whatever nonsense. Uh, you ask the customer what's important to you, what are you looking for in a car, they tell you safety. Okay, you need to be able to ask and to clarify. Great, that's important, but let me just make sure I understand, what do you mean by safety? Because for somebody, safety could be 8 airbags or 10 airbags. For somebody else, it might mean all-wheel drive, and for a third person, it might mean having 300 horsepower so I can merge into traffic without having anxiety that somebody's going to hit me. So three very different things. All of them are safety. So it's really important to be able to ask and understand those questions. You build rapport this way, and it'll allow you to actually, give the proper information and not just blurred. If you tell me, oh, safety is important to me, well, great, this car has 5-star crash rating, it has 15 airbags, it has this braking system, and it has something else, and it has this button that you can push. And the customer is just going to be overwhelmed and say, yeah, okay, that sounds great. Thanks a lot. I'll think about it. So if you kind of like give up, as I'm suggesting, and not learn everything, you need to be able to say, great question, let's find out. Get your cell phone out or open the computer, go in your app that allows you to find those things and find it out. And, just be open with a customer, okay? It's not embarrassing if you're an honest person and if they like you. Them liking you is much more important than you showing off how much you know about the car. And again, last skill that's kind of adjacent to that is know when to stop talking, know when to shut up. They ask a question about a product knowledge. Instead of just blurting things out and telling them everything you know, just so you feel like, you're doing the salesman job, instead of that, clarify, answer the question so they can understand it within a few sentences, and then ask follow-up question. Does that answer your question? Anything else is important? Or are we ready to go on a test drive or sit down and go through numbers? And just in conclusion, I'll tell you a story how I sold my first car. So I was at a dealership that has 4 different brands, and I got pretty much zero product training. And one of the brands was Mazda, and a lady, a judge, came in, and she was interested in a brand new Mazda Miata. And I quickly find out during discovery that she has an older Miata, like a 5, 6 year old. And she loves that car, special color. And she came because we had that same color, new car Miata. And she started asking me questions about the car. But after I find out those things, and I just told her up front, listen, I'm new here, and it looks like you really love these cars, and you already have one of those cars. I think there's zero chance that I'm gonna know more than you know about these cars. What can you tell me about those Miatas? We went on the test drive. She had a great time explaining to me about differences between her car and the new car and how she loves her car and telling me stories. I had zero product knowledge. I sold a car for all the money. She came back 3 years later, bought out her lease, and my product knowledge, like going back to knowing how to operate things, my product knowledge was so bad when I sold the car, I had to take it to a gas station to fill it up because we didn't have porters. And I could not find how to open the gas tank. I literally went to gas station, spent 5 minutes, 10 minutes, had to turn around, go back to the dealership and have it somebody else tell me how to open the gas tank in a Mazda Miata, because for whatever reason, it's right here in the not even like armrest compartment or behind it. So again, product knowledge, yeah, you need to have some of it. In certain cases, you need to have more than others, trucks, electric cars, EVs, but nobody cares if you know everything about a Corolla or a CRV or a 3 Series or whatever basic thing that you sell. Learn how to operate it, learn how to compare it to whatever customers compare it to in a nice way that's not confrontational, and help customers make their own decision. Thanks for watching. Hope this is helpful.